Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a full documentary-style look at a literally unprecedented financial milestone. We're going to trace the exact chronological path of how Elon Musk became the first trillionaire in human history. Let's just jump right in and trace the architecture of this absolute massive ascent. Okay, let's look at our roadmap. We'll be tracking this historic trajectory starting right at the beginning with his childhood journey, then moving through his early startups, the scaling up into launching massive companies, navigating the extreme failures and successes along the way, and finally arriving at that first trillionaire announcement. So, Chapter 1, the childhood journey. Musk's baseline of curiosity was established super early on in Pretoria, South Africa. Growing up, he was just a voracious reader of sci-fi, famously devouring Isaac Asimov's Foundation series. And get this, he actually taught himself to program by age 12. He even sold a space-themed video game he coded called Blaster. These weren't just, passing hobbies for a kid. These formative experiences acted as a crucial incubation period. They literally seeded the massive interplanetary ambitions that he'd eventually need to break that trillion-dollar ceiling. All right, let's move to Section 2, early startups. This is where we see how those early days built into his foundational work. So this phase, it was all about foundational groundwork and just relentless hustle. Think of his early ventures like Zip2, which was a city guide software he actually built with his brother, and XCOM, which you might know later became the digital payment juggernaut PayPal. Now, these weren't just basic software companies. They were his training ground. He was learning the brutal day-to-day mechanics of the market, navigating some incredibly complex mergers, and dealing with the harsh realities of raising massive amounts of capital. He was basically building the operational muscle memory that he would later rely on to completely disrupt deeply entrenched physical industries. Which brings us to Chapter 3, launching companies. This is where we see a massive, massive shift in scale. So the crucial point here is how he capitalized on that early success. He took the financial windfall from the PayPal sale, we're talking well over $100 million, and he leveraged it entirely. Instead of just playing it safe in Silicon Valley software like a lot of people would, he dramatically expanded his vision into incredibly complex, hardware-heavy domains that most investors honestly considered totally untouchable. I mean, he launched SpaceX to revolutionize aerospace with reusable rockets, and took over Tesla to prove that electric vehicles could actually dominate the global auto market. Scaling these heavily physical, capital-intensive companies is what drastically accelerated his path toward global economic dominance. Moving on to Section 4, failures and successes, because this ride was extremely volatile. Now, what's really interesting about this is that the path to $1 trillion is basically a roller coaster of profound risks. The chaotic lows were highly public and, frankly, devastating. We're talking about a string of early SpaceX rocket explosions that nearly bankrupted the company, or Tesla facing its own near-death experience back in 2008, and then again years later during the infamous Model 3 production hell. But here's the thing, you absolutely do not get the staggering highs like successfully landing reusable orbital boosters or achieving total global EV market dominance without risking those catastrophic failures. When you actually weigh these events against each other, a really compelling narrative of immense resilience emerges. His ultimate achievement wasn't about avoiding mistakes at all. It was about surviving them and iterating incredibly rapidly. SpaceX learned exactly how to fly by analyzing exactly why they crashed. Tesla figured out how to mass-produce cars by literally having leadership sleep on the factory floor during production bottlenecks. It's this continuous, intense loop of trying, failing, learning, and succeeding over decades that ultimately shattered the financial ceiling. And that brings us to our final milestone, Section 5, the first trillionaire announcement. 1 trillion. Let that sink in for a second. 12 zeros. It is honestly kind of difficult for the human brain to properly contextualize a number this gigantic when it's attached to a single individual's net worth. But this mathematical milestone is a massive testament to the compounding value and the global economic impact of the interconnected industries he revolutionized. It's the direct, tangible financial result of private spaceflight, mass electric vehicle adoption, and global satellite internet all converging at an absolute massive scale. This announcement moment itself is a literal landmark in human history. It represents the culmination of an entire life's work. Every late-night writing code back in the 90s, every massive gamble on manufacturing infrastructure, and every single public setback that he overcame. It wasn't just a personal financial victory, right? It was the exact moment a new global economic paradigm was established, proving that tackling massive, existential engineering problems can generate previously unimaginable wealth. Which leaves us with a deeply provocative question to chew on. What does the ascent of humanity's first trillionaire actually mean for our future? Does it completely redefine what is possible for a single individual to achieve? Or maybe it changes how history will judge the concentration of this much capital? Keep exploring these questions because understanding this ascent is absolutely key to understanding the economic future we are all stepping into right now. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.